Rezvan Moghaddam is a women's rights activist and scholar with over 30 years of experience in social change. Her research work revolves around social change in women's issues with an emphasis on women living under Islamic law in Iran. Filled by her passion for social change, civil society, and women's movement, she has founded and co-founded various committees to empower women on issues of peace, environment, health, and gender, such as the Women's Committee in Iran, the 1 Million Signature Campaign, International Campaign Against Violence in Iran, All Against Acid Attack campaigns. She currently works as a visiting scholar at Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam and holds 2 master's degrees in pure mathematical statistics and educational psychology, respectively. She has published numerous articles, participated in conferences, seminars, and international gatherings, and also PhD candidate at Vrije Universiteit Berlin in the field of gender studies. After this small introduction, Professor Moghaddam, you're a scholar of sociology and gender studies. You were threatened, arrested, and imprisoned several times. And most recently, you were sentenced to 6 months of jail time and also 10 lashes in Iran because of your human rights advocacy and also your academic work on women's human rights. In addition to being an academic, you are also a long-time women's rights activist. So first of all, thank you very much for being here and accepting this testimony and sharing your experience with us is so valuable. I understand from these biographies that your academic work is very much focused on the social change in gender issues, and you have emphasized on women living under the Islamic law, and you are at the final stage of your PhD thesis. So how does your PhD research relate to free expression of women in Iran?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for introducing me. I should add something to introduce me. I was a professor at university in Iran as mathematics, but in Amsterdam, my title is researcher. About your question, in my doctoral dissertation, I discussed the role of new media on women's movement in Iran. My work shows that how Iranian women's rights activists have been utilizing the great potentials of new media in innovative ways to improve campaign engagement, affect Iranians' cultural, social identity in positive way, and ultimately reinvigorate the Iranian society towards democracy. As you know, autocratic governments, they cannot or they don't want to tolerate diverse idea or diverse ideology. In this kind of atmosphere, you know how difficult it is to have political or civil activities. In this atmosphere, Iranian women activists, they creative different ways to make different voices in Iran. In my research, I have shown that Iranian women's movement has been benefit from the virtual social networking to compromise and stress the collective action and successfully gave a platform, silence voices in bringing them to a realm of civil action. Furthermore, I explore the mechanism of action within Iranian women's movement and explained how they support the Iranian democracy movement with, firstly, clever use of modern communication, facilities by circumventing and by creative method, and also increase public oversight of the government performance and their diverse field, nature of dialogue, action, and goal within themselves.
Professor Moghaddam, you were threatened and faced risk in Iran because of the nature of your research. And also, not just the topic of your research, but your identity as a female scholar, female researcher. What lessons do you think can be shared from your experience in Iran with other scholars who are also striving to create equality for women in the higher education field and speak out about women's human rights violations in their countries?
Yeah, I think this is important that understand the road of democracy is a long one. And it could be generational struggle. I think we shouldn't be disappointed or we have to be patient. We cannot change overnight. Because for example, patriarchy shaped during the century. And it is difficult to remove all the discriminatory laws or behavior against women. I think in the countries that mostly they have totalitarian government or patriarchy system, this is important to raise awareness in the society. This is very important, and scholars can improve by research, by writing articles. There is many ways, and these days we have social media. It is not in the hand of the government. Of course, they have some censorship on new media too, but it is much easier than past. And with the networking, it is another way with the networking. I think that in the region, mostly women can have a network, share their experiences to each other, and support their action. This is the way that I recommend.
Actually very...
And I want to add something. I think and courage is very important in this way. I remember that one time I have the, not session, but the government arrested me, the security service, and I had a discussion with my integrator. Even I want to say that in each situation, we can change something, even if you are in prison. Nowadays in Iran, women from inside prison, they do something. I remember that my integrator told me that we control you, we monitor your activities, we know that how the prostitution, they benefit from your activities, and addicted people or even HIV patient, but we don't have with those, any issue with those actions. But when you want to enter in Sharia law, we cannot tolerate you. And I opened a discussion with him in prison. I told you, I will stay on my right, and I will challenge any law that does not recognize me as a human, as a complete human, or equal a man. And I opened a discussion with him. Even until he meant that because I was a member of 1 million signature campaign. And he started to discuss with me about the 1 million signature campaign, and he explained that some law that the 1 million signature campaign discussed about them, they are ordered from the God. And I told him that the government killed my husband, and my inheritance is half of my brother. The Sharia law says that inheritance for women have to be half of men. Who support me? Not only nobody supported me, but also I supported my family, and in addition my family, some friends. I opened a discussion, and finally he answered me, do you know, maybe I signed the petition. Yeah, this is, I mean that we can do many things if we don't afraid of some results.
These are very valuable recommendations for all the feminist women all around the world, I believe. As you mentioned, the 1 million signature, I just wanted to mention that you have such a rich academic background, but also you are a very known female rights activist. 1 million signature campaign is one of the campaigns you initiated. And this campaign by women in Iran to collect 1 million signatures in support of changing discriminatory law against women in the country. And you have also funded other campaigns as well to endorse the women's right in Iran, as well as I say, all against acid campaigns or campaign against the violence in Iran. So let me ask you this. Would you mind sharing more about those landscapes for women's human rights at the moment in Iran, and what has changed, if anything changed, or what remains the same? And also, one more question I would add, what do you believe in the higher education community and those of us in this very room can do positively impact the women's human rights situation in Iran? Is there any specific actions you recommended us to do to engage in?
The Iranian women's achievements, such as voting, right to voting, or education rights, or, for example, other rights, they are the result of the more than 1 century women's rights struggle for their rights. After the revolution, we lost some of our rights, or better to say, they took us our rights. Immediately after the revolution, mandatory hijab, the Khomeini ordered that women have to appear in the public space with hijab. It was the first right that we lost, and it is mandatory. If you don't want to obey, to wear hijab, you will be punished. And family law changed after a few months. Since then, women started to struggle for their rights. It is almost 4 decades, non-stop, with different ways, from the underground until now that we have social media and we can do many things. If, I don't know if you heard about the acid attack in Isfahan or no. It was in one of the clergies in one of the mosques, courage, talk about the bad hijab, the people who don't want to wear the dress code, Islamic dress code, and then by the spraying acid in their face. But even this this violence, it is, you know, you can imagine how destroyed their face, their health, or their life. But even with this action, they couldn't stop women to appear in the society with, you know, with the hijab that it is not exact hijab that the government wish. With the struggle, we gained some rights. For example, we changed a little bit in inheritance from the land, the age of marriage. After the revolution, they started age marriage for girls, 9 years, but in the Arab calendar, that means that 8 and 6 months age of marriage for girls, and 14 and 6 months for boys. After many struggles, they changed this law. Now for girls is 13 years. A little, for example, insurance. Because of blood money laws, the blood money of women is half of men, and sometimes less. If I want to explain, it is a long discussion, but just I mentioned them. No insurance, for example, if in an accident injured my hand, the insurance gave me less than half a man. And we changed these things, but still we have a long time for equality.
What else would you like us in this room to know, either about your experience or of the issues that female scholars experience in Iran, and also what could be our role to be in solidarity with the female colleagues who are still in Iran and trying to survive that suppressive regime? Just tell us more. What can we do as a scholars, as a feminist scholars particularly?
Oh, good question. In Iran, there is different women, they have the different issues. Some of them is general for all women. But activists and scholars have special problem. For example, as activists, Nargis Mohammadi, she is in jail because of freedom of speech. And the court sentence for her, 16 years jail. Or for example, lawyers or journalists have also their own problem by the government. Or students. For example, if as a researcher, if you do a research that the result is not matched to the wish of the government, you will have problem for publish or for present. I should make it shorter. For example, I had a research about the relation between education and people who have mother with high education and addiction. And the outcome of this research showed that women with high education have less children with addiction. And the government didn't allow me to present. Even the flyer was spread and the organization prepare everything, but they didn't allow me to present it. I think other scholars and can support and raise their voice.
Professor Moghaddam, I have so many questions that I can ask, millions of them, but I'm not going to use the privileges of the microphone. So I think there are so many people in audience that are looking forward to make a comments and ask you questions and initiate a discussion. I think we can take the first 3 questions, then you may answer. Then we can use the time efficiently.
Thank you so much for the very interesting talk and all the thoughts which you share. Actually, in my background, I just feel that all women in the Middle East facing the same challenges. And by the way, I'm Al Obeidi from Libya. We are sharing similar problems anyway. I want you to comment on two main ideas. You refer to women in higher education. I would say, with more different probably phrase, engendering the higher education. If you could just give us more details about the percentage of women who are actually part of some of the establishment and some of the higher education institutions and some of the disciplines which mainly dominated by men, whether all these activities which led by women activists and academic like yourself managed somehow to break this taboo, because in many societies actually women were excluded, specifically at the higher education, from many of the disciplines. Like in some countries, women are not be able to study as an engineer, and even for doctors, there are specific areas that they have to go for maybe, but not more than that. So I wonder if you could just comment on this. The second question, actually, it has to do with the surrounding and the society's values regarding women in general. Do you think that this is what women are facing in Iran? And I would say that this is, I could take this also in many other countries, that the problem that there's lots of support for many of these conservative ideas regarding women because of all the norms and values have been inculcated through a school curriculum, how women presented at school curriculum. I mean, it's a long process of attitudes and beliefs. So maybe, in one hand, we appreciated all this women, I wouldn't say women movement in the Middle East and in many other countries, but in the same time, it has to do also with the culture, it has to do with the norms and beliefs and attitudes towards the role of women in general, or in gender issues in general. Thank you.
Thank you for this question. Okay. I think about the education, Iranian women could be a role model for the other Middle East countries. Nowadays, more than 65% of the Iranian women, they are educated at university. More than it is more than men in Iran. But in some, for example, in engineering, the government made some limitation. So some kind of, they didn't permission women to study, for example, in industry, electronic, but not in governmental universities. In Azad University, that's Vrije University. Nowadays, women in Iran, they found a way through the education to gain their rights. And it has really effect to change the belief of the society about women. In the past, they thought that women, their brain is half of men. For example, I taught mathematics at university, and all my students, they were men. Each year, I taught more than 2,000 of engineers. And I explained that we can change something in each occasion. And in my classroom, I explained to my students that how you say that my brain is half of you. I am not teaching you, all of you. And sometimes I wrote a problem in blackboard and asked them to please solve it. When they couldn't solve it, and then I started to open a discussion with them. We change in this way, you know, not only me. For example, Mirza, you know that she was, she won a very high prize in mathematics. Unfortunately, he died because of the cancer. Yeah, this is the way that we change some beliefs in the society, and I think other countries can use this kind of way that we choose.
I think it's a great message for closing this session. I would like to thank you very much for everything you have done and doing, and thank you so much for participating in this session.
Thank you very much.